Hey dancers, welcome back to Broche Banter, your home for thought-provoking conversations about starting and pursuing ballet in adulthood. In this episode, we dive into the inspiring story of Catie Wells, whose ballet journey is a testament to the power of tenacity and passion. Catie opens up about her childhood struggles with intimidating ballet classes and how the Nutcracker suddenly ignited her love for dance. Unfortunately, health challenges forced her to pause and explore horseback riding instead. Yet her love for ballet never faded, and in her 20s, she returned to the barre. Today, she not only performs, but she also teaches, sharing her love for dance with others. Listen as Catie compares the experience of learning ballet and horseback riding as a child versus an adult. Her passion and unwavering dedication will leave you inspired to pursue your own dreams, no matter the obstacles. After all, ballet is magical, and those Nutcracker dreams really can come true. And with that, I hope you enjoy the conversation with Catie. Welcome to the show, Catie. I'm so happy to have you on Broche Banter today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so looking forward to being here.
First of all, I love that you have a tutu wall behind you. I can count 3 tutus. Are there more that I can't see behind you?
There's 4, actually.
I love it.
There's a small yellow one too.
Oh, we've got 4 tutus behind you on the tutu wall. I love it. It's perfect. It's such a sweet way to decorate your little spot. So, Catie, I am so happy to talk about your journey with ballet and about a topic that you're really passionate about, which is to help adults really feel like they belong in the ballet world and that they are allowed to be seen and heard in the ballet space. And so tell me about why you're passionate about this. Did you at some point feel like you weren't welcome in the ballet world? What has it been like for you being an adult doing ballet in the current way that ballet is?
Yeah. Gosh, where do I start?
There's so many spots.
I guess I'll start sort of from the beginning. I
Yeah.
actually started ballet when I was, I think, late 5 or I had just turned 6 years old. So, and this is a journey. So it's a journey of what, 47 years. So
Wow.
it's been a long one, and it's been very up and down and up and down and in and out and pause and go. But I guess I started ballet when I was 6, and I was one of those kids who was like really, really scared and was very introverted. And I was in the first day of my ballet class. I was one of those kids who was crying, get me out of here. I feel so awful. This is so awkward. Like, I don't know what to do. I wanted mom and everything. So that happened for like the first time, and then mom was like, no, you go, you'll be fine, just go back and you'll be fine. So, okay. So it was okay, it was fine until I went to see the Nutcracker and the Fox Theater in Atlanta, which is, I don't know if anybody knows it, but it is the most beautiful, ornate, one of those 1910 theaters that has the Wurlitzer organ that comes up from the bottom. It's all decorated like a Moorish palace. You can look up and you see the stars twinkle and the moon flies across and there's clouds. It is the most magical place in itself. So I had gone with my friend, my 6-year-old friend, and her mom and my mom. We took a trip to the Atlanta Fox to see the Nutcracker. And as soon as the music started, I was absolutely transformed. I was just like, I don't know what's happening to me, but this is another world. Like, what is this that's happening? And then it all started, and they danced, and the music, of course, they had a live orchestra, and it just, something happened in me, and I can't tell exactly what it was, but that was what put me on the track to just absolutely be, enamored isn't the word, just transformed as a person by it. And and I remember after that, I would be alone in my room, and I would play like I was Clara with the doll and a snowflake, and it was all I thought about for
at 6. That's so young. That's so young to have such a deep, touching relationship with ballet.
Yeah. As I say, something happened. It was more than, oh yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah.
Or look at the pretty costumes. It was it was something much bigger. And I mean, I thought about it and like I played it out in my head and I couldn't stop. My dad always had classical music on usually. So I sort of grew up always hearing that.
Yeah.
I'm sure helped too. And it just, I just wanted to do that. I mean, like many of your viewers, I think saw either the Nutcracker or saw something on TV at any age and just said, that's it.
Yep.
Point blank, I want to do that. And you don't realize all the things behind it and all the blood, sweat, and tears and work and everything, but it didn't matter. It was just I was going to do that. So that after that, and that was after 3 months or so of ballet class, and I thought, okay, this is okay. Well, my teacher wasn't exactly how should we say, she wasn't exactly kid friendly. She was a sort of a Russian trained Southern belle, and she always yelled, and she always called us by our last names.
Really?
Even
at 6?
Yeah. So it was, Wells, squeeze your cheeks. Wells, close your ribs. And I'm like, I'm trying to please. I'm a pleaser. I want to do what you're telling me, but I have no idea what you're. So I struggled with that. And I finally sort of figured out how to please her so that she wouldn't yell at me. And it was really just that, because I was such a sort of a meek, introverted, wanting to please child, that I did what you just find it in your head and your body to say, what do I do? What do I do? And so that was great. And
At that age, if you're just getting these instructions, you just have to kind of like guess until they stop yelling at you. Like, what is that? Because I never trained ballet as a child, as like a young child. So I don't have these experiences. I just imagine you don't know what it means to close your ribs. Not even many adults know what it means to close your ribs. It's a vague, so you just guess, you just move your ribs around until they stop yelling at you, or like, how does the procedure work?
That's what I did. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's what I did. And I managed to figure it. I really did figure it out in my body. And I did it in my 6, 7, 8-year-old body. I figured out what she wanted so that she wouldn't yell at me.
That's so funny. What a funny way. Like, I guess you would just kind of have to experiment and figure it out at a certain point. But that's funny in its own way.
It is. So I continued to take ballet, and I was really loving it. And I was so excited and so I lived in a small town about an hour away from Birmingham, Alabama. So the Birmingham Nutcracker was kind of the closest Nutcracker. And our teacher, Sylvia, would sometimes say, I'm going to take, a few girls to audition for the Nutcracker someday. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is my chance. I was so excited. And I worked so hard to close my ribs and my cheeks and whatever else she wanted me to do, so that she would take, maybe I would be one who she would take to the audition. And, and I went to class almost every day thinking, this is going to be the day she's going to announce we're going to go to the auditions or whatever. And I was so excited, and she never did. And sometimes I just asked her, I was like, Miss Sylvia, are we going to go to the Nutcracker auditions? And she, oh yeah, maybe, whatever. She sort of just blew me off, and I was just like, but I never lost hope. I never ever lost hope. Anyway, so when I guess I still kept trying, was also playing the piano at the time. And I was about 10 or 11, and I was really starting to really get good at the piano because I love to practice. I love the music. I love to practice. I would practice day and night. And I still love ballet. I was taking 2 or 3 different classes and from 2 different teachers, and I loved it. And then the summer, right before I turned 11, I was dying. My knees just started to really swell up with fluid. They really started to get achy. And so did my joints and my fingers, just my finger joints did. And they couldn't really figure out what was going on. So I went to a rheumatologist, and he diagnosed it as juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. So I didn't really know what that meant. I just know that I was achy until he said, you probably definitely can't no PE, no ballet, and no piano. And I was like, what do I do?
That's everything. That's
Yeah,
your whole life at that point.
everything that I love doing and like really hoped to really try to excel at and really just had my heart into it. I couldn't do it anymore. So luckily, my mom was always into horses. And so I started, he said, oh yeah, horseback riding is fine because it's not impact on the joints. Because it strengthens, it's more muscular, riding. And so my mom did like show jumping and dressage and things like that, which is very close contact with the horse. And so lots of muscles, lots of muscles are being used. So I thought, okay, well, I like horses. In fact, I love horses. I'll ride. So anyway, long story long, I quit everything that I loved and moved to horses, which I also loved. And horses and ballet are actually, I think, there's a lot in common there. And I think even in your broche community, there are several people who love horses, love ballet.
Yep.
So there's some, and even other dancers that I've talked to have the same thing. It's just, and part of it is, I think that for me, it's the grace and the strength. Mm-hmm. So the softness and the power at the same time, it's that dichotomy that I just find just entrancing, in both ballet and horses. But so in the course of horseback riding, I never stopped thinking about ballet.
Yeah.
It was always, and this is my little goofy, 10, 12, 11-year-old mind. I would actually, when I was riding, I would hear classical music, like I would hear Nutcracker music. And I would use the rhythm sort of to, make my horse be consistent, to go at a consistent pace, because I would hear it in my head and I might, hum it or something. I also choreographed like dances with the horse and the patterns in like the arena that you do in dressage, which is actually a thing. And I didn't know that at the time, but then when I saw it, I was like, oh wait, there's a musical freestyle on horseback. Like a rider goes into the ring with music playing and does all sort of different patterns to the music.
Yeah.
That's ballet. That's maybe I can just sort of channel that or like work on that and think about that. And so I would, like, in my head, if I couldn't dance, I would still sort of think about maybe like a pas de deux, like the horse and rider. And, the rider, so in dressage, it's really interesting. The rider, is supposed to look like they're doing nothing. Mm-hmm. And the horse is doing all these fancy things. And some people may have seen it like in the Olympics where it looks like the horse is like, oh, the horse is just going sideways. Well, yeah, but there's and very much like ballet, there are so many movements and communication, very subtle communications from the rider to make the horse do that. Mm-hmm. And they have to. The rider has to be balanced. The horse has to be balanced. The rider is responsible for balancing the horse and communicating. I want you to do this, and I want you to do that. And so, in that sense, ballet and dressage. Dressage is the French word for basic training of a horse, which is like. Classical ballet is sort of that foundation to any other sort of dance, Mm-hmm. So everybody says, or I've heard that, if you have a good foundation in classical ballet, you can go anywhere. You can do hip hop, you can do tap, you can do contemporary, you can do all these things. But the key to being a good, say, hip hop artist or maybe like a jazz artist or whatever is having a good foundation, and that's what dressage is. So. And it may seem really super boring and super disciplined, like how many 20-meter circles can you ride? How many times can you go across the diagonal and try to keep the horse straight? I mean, it's just like how many dégagés do you have to do until you can do, petit allegro really, really well? Well, thousands, and it's that fine tuning of these really basic movements. Mm-hmm. that you sort of string together to make something beautiful.
Hmm.
So anyway, so I guess I sort of translated my love and loss of ballet into my horseback riding. And then just one more thing about horses and ballet is that when I was about 17 or so, 16 or 17, I discovered vaulting. And vaulting on equestrian vaulting is almost like gymnastics or ballet on the back of a horse who's cantering around in a circle. Are you familiar with it?
I've seen this and it seems insane. Like I cannot even ride a horse around a pasture. So to me, the idea of doing anything else on a horse other than very slow walking on their oldest horse is traumatizing. But it looks
Yeah.
magical, completely magical. I can't even imagine how it's possible.
Yes, it is. I saw it at an equine exposition. I think it was at the Lexington at the horse park there when I was there for a pony club thing. So I did a lot of sort of pony club equestrian things as a teenager, and it was a good sort of group way to bond horse wise and learning about horses and caring for horses and riding horses. But when I saw this, it was another sort of transformational moment. I was just like, what am I seeing here? And how can I do this? There's music, there's horses, there's people flipping and posing and
Uh-huh.
doing all sorts of gorgeous things on the back of this gorgeous horse. And they had uniforms, they had costumes, they had, color coordinated unitards, and the horse had like his mane was braided with the same colors of the costumes, and it was just like mind blowing to me. And so this is, I guess, I don't know, mid to late 80s, and of course no internet, and the world was just much bigger then. And I lived in a small town in Alabama, and I was just like, how can I do this? And so after they did their little vaulting exposition, I went to I found one of the coaches or one of the people or something. I was just like, what are you doing and how can I do it? And so, and they were from, I don't know, someplace in maybe Michigan or Minnesota or Wisconsin, somewhere way far away. And they said, yeah, we're only like one of 2 or 3 vaulting companies in the States, and hopefully it'll grow. And I'm like, yeah, hopefully. But again, it was like, oh, I just want to do that. So again, I never stopped thinking about that. I never stopped thinking about that. And, I could talk for hours about all of the things that were going on in my head for all this time. But when I was about 18 or 19, my knee disease, whatever it was, just sort of poof, went away.
Huh.
Just stopped. It just was fine. It was into remission, whatever they want to call it. And my rheumatologist said at the time, well, probably it wasn't juvenile arthritis. It was probably just synovitis. He said a lot of girls get it during their sort of, prepubescent or during their puberty years. And then once they're 18, it just sort of goes away. So he said, that's probably what happened with you. So I'm like, okay, yay, I can dance again. Maybe I can play the piano. And but then I was in college, and I was in a horrible relationship and was feeling horrible about everything. And I just didn't. But when I sort of got out of that, and when I was about 25 or 26, I was married and a great relationship. And I just thought, this is the time. I'm going to start ballet again. I thought I had, and this was mid 96, 97, 98, somewhere around in there. And which adult ballet was still like not, I mean, it wasn't even, it was just, you were just into a class with teenagers, you just sort of fit in, however. And so I started back, and I was just, it just filled my head. It filled everything in me. And I knew, like, I remembered a lot of things. I really did. I remembered, I love foreign languages, so I'm a linguist. So all of the French, and my Miss Sylvia, my teacher when I was young, of course, always used the French terms, and that just stuck in my head. So that was a huge, huge, huge help to remember the terminology and to hear it. So that really helped me. I really wanted to do it. So I fought, sweated, cried with all the teenagers. And after about 6 months, the teacher was like, okay, you can start on point if you want to. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, really? Like, me? And she was like, yeah, sure, just to go. This was a small town in Georgia. So she said, yeah, just go to this place and get fitted. And I was like, okay, yes, I will do that. And I was so excited. And so I got fitted in these beautiful point shoes. And she said, yeah, just take the barre in the point shoes. I'm like, okay. So yeah, no. So
Amazing. I mean, that's quite the way to get started in point shoes.
it was just, I mean, she just threw me to the wind, and I just, again, figured it out
Yeah.
and realized, okay, this really hurts. Why does it hurt so bad? Who knows? The point shoes, my straight guy, it could have been all those things, but it was so painful. But I'm like, I don't care. I'm gonna push through it. I love it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna show everybody. I'm gonna do it. And so I really didn't even have a chance. I mean, I tried so hard, but it was just one of those things where it just kind of, it just didn't happen. Like I didn't do it correctly, but I didn't know. Nobody told me, maybe you should do this, maybe you should that. The teacher said it. So, okay, I should do it. But, so I sort of just figured it out for myself. My husband and I at the time, this is my first husband, moved to Atlanta. And I was lucky enough to get in with a pre-professional company. It was Northeast Atlanta Ballet Ensemble. And this woman who ran the company just said, oh yeah, you can come in and, yeah, you can dance in our Nutcracker, and yeah, you can take point barre and point shoes. And again, she didn't really she just didn't really realize that adults, like you do, that adults learn differently, they dance differently, and they learn point differently. Yeah. So again, I just sort of got thrown in. I didn't have proper technique. I didn't have she put me in Waltz of the Flowers the first year on point. And that was just like, oh, this is my first experience, and I'm on point, and I'm in the Nutcracker. I was like, it was wonderful. But I sort of realized in watching myself on that video that, okay, I have a lot to work on. Point the toes, even in point shoes, because it hurts really bad. So I got to work on pointing my toes. I got to work on not, all the things, not sickling. I got to work on my arms, all these things. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So the next year, she said, you can not understudy, but double cast in Waltz of the Snowflakes, and which is my absolute favorite. And so I was just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to do it. There's no turning back. I mean, it is just done. Just
that's it. Yeah.
So I was rehearsing and really just, the teenagers just like, oh, this is easy. And I'm just like, this is so hard. This is so hard. Yeah, everything about it was hard, but I was, I'm very detail oriented. I'm very focused. I'm very analytical. So I just did it. Like I just learned it and just suffered through all the pain that I was having on these horrible fitting point shoes and my non-technique in point shoes or whatever. But so I I don't know, it was in November or so, and I was going up for something, and I buckled my ankle, and I probably tore a bunch of ligaments at the time, but I was just like, okay, ow, that hurt. And she said, do you need some ice? And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I do. So I iced it, and I sat out for that, maybe the week, but I'm like, I'm fine. It's just a sprain. I'll just ice it, and I got to be back in rehearsal because, it's almost Nutcracker time. And there was no way I wasn't going to be on that stage. No way I wasn't going to be with the snow not falling. So I just, powered through it, and I'll never forget. And I just want people this is kind of a turning point for me where I thought, okay, I can do it. I can do hard things. Is that I was on the back row, and in the height of Waltz of the Snowflakes, when it's all cardio and just like 90 to nothing, we had this thing where we went it was a développé on point, and then a passe, développé, passe. It was like, I don't know, 20 of those or something. And you were sort of moving forward. And so luckily I was at the back, but I still had to do all of them. And I was just like, and I wasn't going up on point all the way because I was still sort of baiting my ankle. And Jennifer is so sweet. She got up from her stool. She walked back to me. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And she had told me, she said, you need to be going up on point for this. And I was like, I know. And so she was slowly walking back. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. I knew. And I was like, I've got to get up there. I've got to get up on my points. And so something in me just pushed me up and I did it. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm doing it. And I'm on point. I was looking at myself in the mirror. I was like, am I really on point? And she walked away and she was like, okay, that's it. So I was just like, whew. So I was afraid I was going to get cut from snow. And I didn't injure myself at that point, although I'm sure I had it taped up and braced up and everything. But I did it. So I thought, hey, I can do this. That was nothing but sheer willpower, and I can do this. So that was like probably the biggest boost of confidence that I've probably ever had, that I willed myself to do that. And so fast forward to the Nutcracker, and I'm huffing and puffing and just about to die at the very end when we're posing. The snow's coming down, and I'm like, if I die right now, I really don't care, because this is it. And so I guess I was 28 or so. And I did it. And that was kind of the pinnacle of it for me. But I still always wanted more. Like I still did several other roles, and like their Cinderellas and their like character roles, and some of the core, like the fairy stuff in Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty. So I still got to be on stage, and I still did point stuff. I think poorly, I'm sure, but yeah. So I really feel like this is why I love everything about your program, is because you help us do it correctly. Like, don't just throw me in with the 11-year-olds, because I'm not, yes, we're both starting out, but it's just so different. And, maybe if I hadn't, so that ankle injury sort of re-manifested itself a few years ago, and I had to end up having surgery and all these things. But, it's sort of just been one trial after another. It's been really, really hard for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, throughout my whole life, it's just like there's always these stumbling blocks. There's always something, for me. I don't have kids, so it was, I can't even imagine it. If I had kids, I probably wouldn't be able to do all these wonderful things. But just there still have been so many barriers, and there always will be. Just different ones for me. And it's just another thing that I just want to like sort of drive home, is that tenacity, especially in ballet, is the key. I mean, you just have to keep sticking to it, and everybody's journey is different, and, it's not always linear, and it's not always way up, and, it's up and down. But if you love it so much like I do, like if it just is in your, I don't know, DNA, if you want to be trite about it. But I mean, I love it so much that I would move mountains to be able to do it, and, suffer through all the pain and the injuries, and trying to find a studio that, that helps, that caters, or not just caters, but that accepts adults. It's just huge. And I want people to know that it's worth it. It really is. I mean, you have goals, and you love it. If you love it, do it, and don't sacrifice, and don't let anybody tell you that you can't. You just may have to find the right person, scenario, training place to make it happen, but it can. So
it's amazing to me, Catie, to hear your whole story, because obviously we've been dancing together for now, I don't know, 3 years or plus, maybe some 3-ish years, I think, since we have started together. And, obviously I know you're dancing now, but in class, you don't get a chance to hear this in depth of somebody's story, right? So to hear this whole story is so fascinating to me, because your dancing is so detailed and so light on your feet and so lifted, and it just has this like really ethereal quality. And I can see, sorry if you're hearing my sweet dog Rosie crying. it all makes sense to me having heard your story. Like the way you move across the stage, I can see the horseback riding training in it, where your feet are just so light and so airy, and yet your body is just like floating magically across the stage. I always assumed you had way more childhood ballet training than it sounds like you did, just because you have such a light and lifted quality in your dancing, which is one of the most difficult things to receive as an adult, is this feeling of lift, because it's so anti what we is so
Yeah.
anti-gravity. I mean, basically is like anti-gravity, but you have this like ethereal floating anti-gravity quality, which is, I think, makes it just so beautiful when you did, for example, the winter fairy, or this coming year you'll be doing such a fun and light piece. It's like you just have such a lightness to your dancing. And we all make up a story about how you got that, right? And I see people who have danced as children and had a long, dance through their teenage years, have this sort of quality. So yeah, for me, like as you're talking, like my brain is just like, okay, now I like it's all coalescing. It all makes sense. Like it all makes sense. But I'm honestly surprised that you stopped ballet training at such a young age, based on how technical and detailed your dancing is. You've really figured a lot out, even though it sounds like the story of Catie's ballet life has been go in the deep end and try not to die. Like that sounds like it's been the story of your life. You did it. You actually did it. You not only didn't die, you actually have done really, really well for yourself and for your technique. Very beautiful.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Very lovely. So it's funny that everyone kind of has, in my work with so many people in ballet, you hear how ballet has woven through everybody's life, and how, whether it's one thing or the next, sometimes it's with somebody's body, that's one thing after the next. And sometimes it's with somebody's circumstances, that's one thing after the next, or, whatever it might be, that's sort of one thing after the next. But the underlying thread that I can feel through your words is just like, this love makes it so that you can't not. It's almost like the siren pulling you in from the sea. It's like it's inside. And for some reason, we don't know what it is exactly. None of us seem to know what it is, but for some reason, that light burns so brightly that you have to go chase it, even though it's like so hard to go
Yeah.
chase it. I do know what that is. Like I often wonder what it is in some of us that just keeps pushing us there.
For me, I think it's it is the quintessence of beauty for me, because and there's something about it, is just sheer beauty, everything about it, the costumes, the lightness, like you say, the effort. It just looks effortless, but we know it's not. It's the music. I mean, maybe as much, if not more than that. It's the um, what's the word? Is the everything, the
Like,
synchronicity
mhm.
of beauty coming together in this one package that is, it's overwhelming to me. Like it overwhelms me. And that when I've seen I've seen the Nutcracker, I've been in the Nutcracker, I don't know, dozens of times. And that part of in Waltz of the Snowflakes, the whole thing is beautiful. Well, the whole like snow scene, the pas de deux, and the whole snow scene, just I know I know I'm gonna bawl. I'm gonna bawl. I just know it. I tell everybody that I go with, when the snow scene comes, I will cry. I'm fine. Just let me. But it's that, especially when the voices in that
Uh,
snow, oh my gosh, it just transports me to like this other realm of beauty that is not in my body. It's not here. It's otherworldly. And it's just is that escape that I guess, I don't know, maybe for some people it's, drugs or pills or whatever. But for me, like that escape, that out of body experience for me is, I mean, any several scenes in ballet, but that snow scene just always gets me. And it is just it's the embodiment of beauty that it just makes me weep. It melts me. It just makes me, I guess, feel so much. That's how it is for me.
so interesting that us as people, like, why does beauty matter to us so much? Why does it give, why Why is it so important to us? Like this feeling of beauty, this feeling of art, this feeling of out of body and almost like uber connected. Like you almost feel so connected with the music. You feel the music is maybe inside of your body while you're outside of your body. It's like a very strange feeling that seems, I mean, obviously we can't communicate with animals to know if they experience the same thing, but it seems so particularly human that this type of music can move us in such a way when it's just your ears, it's your eyes. I mean, it's your also your brain making up a story, and yet it's like the most profound experience.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it is.
magic.
It is magic, and I think at the time, I my parents sort of went through a nasty kind of divorce when I was 8, and that was my escape. Like that music and that thinking and that play acting, I would just shut myself in my room because I didn't like I knew something was really really bad and I didn't want any part of it, but I could be in my room and sort of put on the music and play with my Nutcracker doll, and it was gone for a minute. It was. So I mean, that was I guess in that moment, or that sort of moment, that's how I dealt with pain. Is like I didn't want that yucky stuff. I wanted the beauty.
Mm-hmm.
So give me more of the beauty to erase this yucky stuff that's going on. So, and I mean, I think that's, even there's so much yucky in the world right now. And there's so much, just hate and just, I don't know how else to say it, just yucky stuff that, the world needs more beauty. I mean, you can't have too much beauty. Beauty doesn't kill. Beauty doesn't make enemies. Beauty is just, I guess what I'm just saying is that um, if you find ballet beautiful, pursue it, because the world needs more ballet. The world needs more beauty. The world needs more, I don't know, just good things and happy things that, you know, that don't, that aren't yucky.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's not even necessarily happy, because sometimes these feelings aren't happy, but yet they're very deep and they have a more connected feel where you can feel the shared humanity of the person who created the piece or the person who is performing for you. It almost, the beauty almost has a sense of like, I don't know if togetherness is the word, but it's like a sense of oneness with either the people you're experiencing it with or the people who are performing it. And, I think one of the most amazing things that I find about ballet and about classical music is that you can watch this incredible performance and not be able to speak to that person because they speak another language. Like
Yeah.
you can have just had a conversation with a musician through the music and you cannot speak to them.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to understand each other in any other way that you could communicate, but yet you had this shared experience that just transcends beliefs, language, upbringing. Like it just transcends all of that and gets to like the core of what people are and the core of what people feel. And I think that's so much of it. That's even just like what is the anecdote for so much is like to come together through the things that we share, right? Because it's so easy to look at other things that separate us, and it's like, no, there's actually this foundational human emotion and this human feeling that we all have together. It's like that's how you ultimately come together with people and connect with people, is that you have this incredible thing in common, not even ballet, but just feelings, the
Yeah.
experience, the human experience. And you actually have it in common with people centuries ago. They had the same human experience, even though the particulars are so different, right? Because you can connect with a piece of classical music that was written who knows how long, and it still touches you deeply, the same exact way that it probably touched those people deeply. It blows my mind that it transcends circumstances, type of person, background. It transcends all of that. And it's just real. It's just real for so many of us.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I agree with that. And I mean, ballet is a language to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a form of expression, right? It's just not with words. And that is, to me, is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Just that you can tell a story just without speaking, just with music and your body. Like that's beautiful to me.
Mm-hmm. It's magic. I always say it's like magic for adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you think with ballet that it is like with other forms of dance, like I just had a West Coast swing instructor on the podcast last week, and we talked about how in West Coast swing, actually starting as an adult is the norm, and starting as a child is unusual. But in ballet, it's the opposite. And so I'm curious. I've been just since this was told to me, I've kind of been shifting my paradigm. Like there are some things that are more common to start as a child, and some things that are more common to start as an adult. And ballet happens to be one of these things that is currently more common to start as a child versus as an adult. And I'm curious your take on why that is. Because you have ballet experience as a young child and as an adult, and now also as teaching too, and sharing it with other people. So I'm curious your perspective on all of that. Why how about horseback riding? Is that more common as a child or as an adult, or is that actually equivalent? You start on both? Like, I'm curious your thoughts.
I think from my perspective, I both rode and did ballet as an adult, as a child and an adult. And the two experiences were completely different for me. So and I mean, a lot of it's situational or, just situational, but a few years ago, I wanted to go back to horseback riding. So I got a horse. That's a whole different podcast right there. But I was full of fear, completely full of fear. When I rode as a kid, I mean, we did things that like kids do things in ballet too. Like you do like point jumps, whatever. You do things because you don't have that, whatever it is. Either you can call it common sense or knowledge of the world, or you can call it, experiences. Okay, I shouldn't do that because I'm going to die if I do that.
Right.
You don't have that as a kid. And I mean, luckily I always had, wonderfully trained horses, and I was, I had a lesson program, and I was always, supervised. So not to say I didn't fall off, but I never really seriously got hurt as a kid. And I rode all the time. I had a crazy mare who loved to stop at the fence, like right before the fence. I mean, that happened so many times to me. I mean, but I never, you bounce as a kid. When you're a kid, you bounce and you just, okay, brush the dirt off, get back on. And of course, I always rode with a helmet. So, I never.
Wear your helmet, kids.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So I never got hurt. I mean, one of my friends broke her arm one time, but I mean, but she still, I mean, she healed and kept riding, so, but as an adult, and, I had a horse, and I didn't really know him that well. I knew how to ride, but I didn't realize until too late that he had this bolting problem, and he wanted to eat grass. And I was like, no, we're going to ride. And he was like, okay, well, I'll just show you. And he takes off.
Oh my gosh.
So, and this is a Norwegian fjord horse who has a neck like a tank. Yeah. They're made to like pull, they're like ponies, but they're made to like pull carts and things like that. So they have these massive necks, massive shoulders. That's why I love him so much. He's gorgeous. But and I know how to, okay, a horse is running away with me. You pull the rein around. Normally that works, but with a tank, you don't stop a tank. He's just like, oh, okay, I'll just run this way.
Sideways.
Yeah. And so he ended me up in the emergency room twice. And on the third time I was on the ground, and I'm like, not fun anymore. After 4 years of just trying to get him to not run away with me, I was just like, I was always scared. And I think he knew that, it's like pirouette, they smell your fear. Or he knew I was always like tense. And even as much as I tried to breathe and relax, whatever, he just, and we'd just be going along sometime, and he'd just bolt. So I don't know. I tried so hard to analyze, what is it? What is the trigger? Who knows? But I was just like, this isn't fun anymore. And it's so expensive, and it's taking up so much of my time. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to do this to myself. And so totally different experience, and a little bit the same in ballet. I mean, I had kind of a very weird, I don't know, not whole experience as a ballet as a kid, but from up until I was 11. I mean, I wasn't scared to do turns, and it was fun, right? It's fun
Right.
to turn, and it's fun to do all these leaps and jumps and things like that. But now, as adults, it's scary. Those things are scary, and we have to get over that because it's our brain saving us from ourselves, like you say. So I mean, yes, I think they're totally. You can have the same. You can do activities as an adult and as a kid, but they're totally different. It's like night and day. It's riding as a kid is not like riding as an adult. Ballet as a kid is not like ballet as an adult. Not weird or gross or bad. It's just different,
Yeah.
just different experiences. And I think, what I bring to the table in terms of more or less really learning or having most of my ballet training as an adult, yes, you have more of a awareness of body awareness, and you have more of a brain, sort of a mental type thing about it.
Yep.
Whereas a kid, maybe you have more flexibility or less fear, but I mean, still, it's just different. And I think that acceptance too, just being able to accept that, yeah, it's different. It's not gonna be like it was when you're a kid, or you're not gonna be able to do pirouettes like the Sugar Plum Fairy is after 2 years. I mean, maybe, but accept that it's just different.
Yeah.
And keep the tenacity, but also just accept things for what they are, and accept that everybody's journey is different, and make it your own. Enjoy it, I think, is the best thing to do.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it, these words fun and enjoyment, I think that drives a lot of our practice. Like when you're a kid, you love the feeling of spinning. At least I did. I used to find it hilarious to just spin and get dizzy and fall on the floor and the whole room would spin. I used to find it hilarious. And now I'm just like, oh my God, it's spinning. I need to stop, like now it's like a terrifying experience. And so you don't find it fun. It's like you don't find it fun. And so you don't end up working on that enough to become more proficient at it, right? When you're a kid, you'll try pirouettes hundreds and hundreds of times. You'll never stop trying them during the day because they're so much fun and you can't wait to do the next one. But as an adult, you have to push an adult to try for even 10 minutes in a row. You have to push them to even try their pirouettes
Totally.
for 10 whole minutes, right? That's too long if you're not having fun. And so I think as an adult, part of accepting it is like accepting that the things that you find enjoyable will change and progress.
Yeah.
And the things that you don't find enjoyable, they're not going to change and progress as quickly because you're not going to be as motivated to practice them. You have to force yourself to practice them. You have to get a teacher who pushes you to practice them. You have to really cultivate why you want to practice them. And I think a big part of that acceptance is like what you find fun as an adult will probably be different than what a kid finds fun, and therefore you'll progress in different ways. Like the technique is often very fascinating to adults, like how to manage their pelvis and their feet and their turnout and their elbows and their hips, and really getting to know their body very intricately. Whereas for a kid, that's often not as fun, and they want to kind of skip that. So I find you actually will get adults with, in some ways, a stronger and more patient technical foundation because they love it and they find it so fascinating. But you don't get adults very often who work up to 4 pirouettes or 3 pirouettes, whatever, because it's just you're not going to work on it that much. Like it's just not fun. Like it's like you said with the horse, like this is not fun. Like, and sometimes you do fall over when you're working on a pirouette and you're just like, no, I'm done for the day. Like usually for me, that's my reaction. If I slip when I do a pirouette, it's like, I'm done with this for the day. I'll try again tomorrow. It's not like, okay, let me keep going. I'm like, nope, this got too far. Now I can't. Like, so I think that's a huge part of it is like what you focus on will progress. Right. And oftentimes, especially with something we're doing that brings us so much joy, we focus on the things that are bringing us that joy and enjoyment. I think that's okay. Like you just accept the things that you find enjoyable about ballet and dive into those things until a new thing catches your interest, and then dive into that and not stressing yourself like, oh, I should be working on this. I should be working on that. I should be more interested in this. It's like, maybe you're not. And that's like literally okay. Unless you're trying to get hired by someone who's forcing you to do that. It's literally okay to enjoy some parts more than others.
Life is too short to not have fun. It is. There's one thing that I've learned in my 53 years, that if you're not having fun, try something else that is fun, because life is short. Have fun.
Yeah, it's so true. And with ballet, forcing yourself to do the parts that are not that enjoyable, not that interesting, scary to you, feel dangerous to you, like take those step by step, inch by inch, like you can and you will make progress as you become interested in them.
Yes.
Until you're interested in them, let your interest take you. Obsess over your feet, obsess over your fingers, obsess over your posture, your facial expressions, whatever. You're allowed to dig into one particular detail and focus in there and
Yeah.
let the rest go by the wayside, which I think is different as adults than kids, because kids are often in a very well-rounded, particularly structured program altogether, right? Going for the same goal, which is to be a well-rounded, like professional dancer in many cases, right? But when you're pursuing it for yourself, it's like you can work on the things that interest you. And I find so interesting about ballet, which is different than, like, you played the piano too, and even probably horseback riding. It's like it's actually quite normal in other things to specialize in the things that you enjoy and find interesting. It's actually quite normal. Like in singing, the teacher's like, "Do you want to sing jazz?" And you say yes, and then you don't work on opera. And it's like normal to focus on that thing. But with ballet, for some reason, we really can stress ourselves out that we're not doing all of it perfectly, and that we're not really perfect at everything yet. Even if you've got beautiful extensions, but your petit allegro is slow, then we're beating ourselves up. Like, I'm not a good dancer because I can't do that one tiny part of it, whereas I can do this other stuff. It's like I mean, ballet does attract us who like everything to be perfect and exactly just right. But it's such an interesting mindset that we can sometimes have in ballet.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's ballet is so multifaceted, and so are each of us as people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so interesting.
I love that you said that. I have an adult ballet class. They're basically beginners, and I love that they ask me questions like, "How do I get my développés higher?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh yes, let's talk about that." Whereas if I did that with my ballet two class, they'd be like, "Really? Like
Why are you
so,
talking so much?
yeah, I just, why are you talking so much? Let's turn, right? Let's
Right.
leave.
Right.
Where's the adults? But I just want to say in all my classes, but especially in my adult class, I always just think like, I channel you. I hope you feel it, but I channel you because I, and I think I do a pretty good job because I've asked them and they say, "We love the way you teach. You're so welcoming. You make it fun, and it's lighthearted, and it's just I learn a lot, but I also have fun, and you just bring a levity to it, and I love that." And so I always try to think about like, what would Julie do in this class? What would Julie do? How would she teach the class? Because I have this wonderful gem of an opportunity to encourage or maybe even sort of incubate adult ballet. And it better be fun and accessible and non-judgmental.
Yep.
Maybe some people want to, come into a first ballet class and, have me make them get their grand battements like up to the ceiling. But some people might, and if they want that, then I'm not that person, But it's because most people don't want that, and I want people to feel welcome and energized and inspired, and they're not going to do that if they're not having fun. And so I just always. I do your little, also when we're about to turn, I do your fun little, okay, let's just spin, like that. So it's fun for me, and they love it. Like they're just giggling. Even my like upper level ballet classes kind of thought that was okay. That's kind of cool too. So I love that. Thank you for that.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. I channel my teacher who trained me how to teach, and she would always say, always finish class with a smile. No matter how hard you push them, always make sure that they leave wanting more, not wanting less.
I
And
love.
that was like her big lesson. How she did it was jumps, but I find that jumps don't always make adults smile, because sometimes it can be a little bit stressful or painful, or the bra situation or whatever's going on. Like it's not always, it's not always joyful. But she always would hammer home that like, if they don't come back, you cannot reach them.
Yes.
It is your job to make sure that they come back. And you can teach them if you can reach them. And if they're gone, you can no longer teach them. So it is your goal, no matter how hard you push them, to make sure that they come back. And she works so hard to instill that in me, is just like, this is optional for them. And if you want to be able to show them how to get their legs higher, you need them to come for long enough to be able to teach them that. Like you
Yeah.
need them to keep coming back. And so she
Yeah.
would, tell me that from obviously a business pragmatic standpoint, right? Because she had her private lesson business for, I don't know, 50 years maybe in total. And so of course you learn over that time that it's important to keep your students happy, right? To keep your livelihood. But also from a perspective of a teacher, it's not fulfilling if you're not able to reach people. It's not fulfilling as a teacher if you're just only seeing people one and done or for very short periods of time. Where it becomes really deeply fulfilling as a teacher, and I'm sure for you too, is where you see a person progress and you see them change and you see them come out of their shell and you see them understand how to work the floor and you see them change their posture and you see them do their first pirouette. And these are the really, really rewarding moments. And I think, at least from, obviously she anchored me on that lens, but if they're not coming back, you cannot have that transformation together. You can push them as hard as you want, but it is moot if they leave.
Yes.
You have to balance. You always have to balance pushing with keeping them coming back for more pushing. Like that's basically, it's a delicate balance. And, sometimes you don't win them all, right? Like sometimes you push too hard or not enough or whatever it is. Like you obviously have your own style, but yeah, it's really sweet to hear that that's kind of pushed, that's kind of like passed through like the generations of us of trying to change the narrative of how we reach each other, how we reach the adults.
And also how to make it not weird for adults to be in ballet. Like that's my ultimate, I know it is yours too, but I just really feel passionate that someday it is not going to be weird or silly for adults to take ballet classes or to perform or all of it. Like it's not going to be a weird thing. And I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but I feel like I've always felt, of course, being mostly an adult ballerina. I mean, most of my ballet training has been as an adult. I struggled through that. I know how that is. I know how it felt to just be thrown in and not kind of like, I don't know what to do with you. Like, that's just awkward. Nobody wants that, especially when it's about something that I've been passionate about since I can remember, like it's almost hurtful. And I don't want anybody to feel like that. I mean, the opposite, of course. I really want them to be nourished by and nurtured. But yeah, like that, I just feel like that's my mission in life, is to do what I can to not make it weird for adults to be doing ballet.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, Catie. And what a really uplifting note to wrap on. I think with adults, it's like silly, or it can seem silly or childish to pursue something like ballet, but it's so, like you said, through this conversation, there's so many deeply profound moments that showed you who you are, that gave you the confidence to go do hard things in your life, that gave you this profound sense of beauty and purpose and meaning in your life. And I think those are hugely deep, beyond a childhood silly pastime that you put your kid in to entertain them for a little bit, or that they're trying to become a professional. Like those are some really deep, meaningful human experiences that you've described throughout this. And if I could just ask one more question to kind of wrap on, is like, why, so for someone listening who might be afraid to either get out to their local studio, or they might be afraid to, if they're already dancing, they might be afraid to perform or put themselves out there to be in a performance, why does it matter? Why should they go? Why should they make the time in their life? I mean, life is busy. It's easy to just be like tomorrow. Why is it matter that they should go and put themselves out there?
I speak from experience. It's why I did it, is because I think that maybe somebody would see me and say, oh, well, there's a older woman doing ballet and looks, natural, or at least it's that, that's not really weird. So just to inspire, to put yourself out there in the universe, and to maybe have the opportunity to inspire or give someone else the courage to say, okay, well, if she can do it, maybe I can. Or if he's doing that, maybe I can do this. Maybe it's not weird, because the more of us that do it, actively do it, and especially perform, or like to be on stage and where there's more people that, a bigger audience, so to speak. that's more bang for your buck, and maybe you can inspire somebody, and maybe it doesn't happen just then, but maybe somebody, years later will say, oh, I remember I saw that woman dancing, and I thought, well, maybe that could be me, maybe I could be up there too. So have the courage to do hard things and to sort of step out of your comfort zone. And if you really love it, the universe will pay you back in so many ways. So many ways. You owe it to the universe to follow that.
Beautiful, Catie. Thank you so much for your time and passion. I love the conversation. It's so uplifting and inspiring. And I can't wait to see who you inspire through both your dancing, your performing, your teaching through this episode. And it just keeps rippling forward. And the ball is already in motion on making ballet, quote unquote, not weird for adults. The ball is already rolling. We're already on the path together. And the more who come, the more fun we get to have together, the more sparkly costumes, the more snowflakes in the Nutcracker, the more of it all. So come join and we'll have a really great time. Thank you, Catie.
I love it. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for all you do.
All right, dancers, I hope that conversation with Catie leaves you so inspired and moved to go out there and chase your dreams too. Never forget that ballet is magical and your Nutcracker dreams really can come true. All right, dancers, I'll be back in your ears next week with another awesome episode. And until then, I wish you very happy dancing.